I always thought that after 15 years together, surprises would have run out. You start believing you've seen every version of each other. The tempers, the habits, the half-asleep mornings, the unspoken routines. But nothing prepares you for a surprise that crawls in slow, like a train you can see coming but can't move away from. Her name is Rebecca. We met back in college, when love still felt effortless. I worked nights and scraped through unpaid internships while she finished her psychology degree. Back then, we shared instant noodles and impossible dreams. We promised we'd never turn into one of those couples who sit in silence at dinner, more focused on their phones than each other. I used to believe we were different, but lately, that silence had started visiting uninvited. It slipped in between our words, stretching the space between good mornings and good nights. She'd scroll through her phone long past midnight, her face turned away from mine. I told myself it was stress, work, or fatigue. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. It began with the little things. A new perfume I hadn't bought, the extra time she spent getting ready for work drinks, the pause before she answered my texts. You tell yourself you're imagining it until you can't anymore. That Friday, she said she had dinner plans with a friend from the office. Too casual. Too rehearsed. I smiled, told her to have fun, but after the door shut, I sat in silence, the TV flickering without meaning. My chest felt tight, not from anger, just confusion, disbelief. 15 minutes later, I walked to the window. Her car was still there. I watched her sitting inside, fixing her hair, smiling faintly at her own reflection. That small, secret smile told me everything I didn't want to believe. Then she drove off. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. The truth was already in the room with me. I poured a glass of the whiskey we used to save for anniversaries and stared into it, thinking about all those years, 15 of them, built on trust that apparently came with an expiration date. When she finally came home past midnight, her eyes flickered with surprise to see me awake. "You're still up?" she asked. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Couldn't sleep." She nodded and went straight to the bathroom. That perfume lingered again, once intoxicating, now reeking of lies. I didn't confront her. Maybe some part of me still hoped she'd confess, that she'd sit beside me and cry, saying it was all a mistake. But she didn't. And that's when I realized the man waiting for her honesty wasn't her husband anymore, just a fool who didn't know when to stop hoping. The next morning, I made coffee like always. She came in humming, pretending normal. I asked how dinner went. "It was nice," she said easily. "We talked about work." I nodded. "That's good." Then silence, the kind that speaks louder than any argument. Over the next few days, she kept up the act, texting more, smiling at her phone, inventing late meetings. I played along. I still kissed her goodnight, still made breakfast. But beneath that calm surface, something inside me was hardening. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't going to shout or plead. I just wanted her to understand what real detachment looks like. Because the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So I waited. And when the moment came, I didn't argue. I simply acted. That Saturday, she told me she'd be out for a few hours. Her tone careful, her smile a performance. I kissed her forehead and told her to enjoy. Inside, I was colder than I'd ever been. As soon as she left, I opened my laptop and quietly moved half our savings into a new account under my name. I wasn't being cruel, I was protecting what I'd earned. 15 years of my life didn't deserve to disappear into someone else's betrayal. Then I packed a small suitcase, a few clothes, my watch, my journal, and left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter beside her favorite mug. No note, no explanation, just silence. When she came home that night, the house was dark except for the soft glow from the kitchen. My absence must have hit her instantly, because she called my name twice, first gently, then louder, her voice trembling, echoing through the empty rooms. When she saw the ring on the counter, she stopped cold. I can picture her staring at it, realizing what it meant. Not rage, not a fight, just the quiet ending of something she thought would last forever. That night, I stayed at a small hotel by the coast. I sat on the balcony, listening to the waves crash against the rocks, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. Strange, isn't it? How losing someone can feel like freedom once you've already lost them in every other way. The next morning, my phone lit up with messages. First a few, then dozens. Where are you? Please answer. I made a mistake. I just needed to feel something different. But I never meant to lose you. I read them all, every word dripping with regret. Then I set my phone face down and watched the sunrise spill gold across the ocean. It didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like a beginning. 2 days later, she showed up. I knew she would. Her eyes were red, her face pale, the confident woman I knew replaced by someone small and trembling. She begged to talk, tears streaming down her cheeks. For years, I dreamed of her finally opening up, but not like this. Please, Lucas, she whispered. I messed up. It was just dinner. Nothing happened. I was lonely. I just wanted to feel wanted again. Her words twisted in the space between us. I believed enough of them to understand, but not enough to stay. I looked at her and said quietly, You wanted to feel wanted.
But what about me?
I've been here, loving you, showing up even when it felt one-sided. You didn't need to find attention somewhere else. You just had to look across the table. She broke down, sobbing. Can't we fix it? I shook my head slowly. You don't fix something by pretending it didn't break. You fix it by admitting it did. And sometimes that means letting go. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, barely above a whisper, I never thought you'd leave. That line hit harder than anything else because for years she was right. I never would have. But the man who used to wait, who used to hope she'd come back, wasn't standing there anymore. I didn't leave, I said quietly. You just stopped walking beside me. She turned away, biting her lip. There was nothing left to say. I picked up my bag, walked out the door, and didn't look back. Months later, when the papers were signed and the dust had settled, I moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Sometimes, I'd lie in bed and glance at the empty space beside me, wondering if 15 years could ever truly disappear. But then I'd remember that night on the balcony, the calm, the clarity, and I'd realize something important. Love doesn't vanish all at once. It fades slowly, replaced by something quieter, something stronger. Self-respect. Rebecca once told me I was too predictable, too steady. She wasn't wrong. But in a world addicted to chaos, being steady is its own kind of strength. And when she went on that date, she didn't just lose a husband. She lost the one person who would have never stopped choosing her. That's what finally left her speechless.